Welcome to NOLA Motorsports Park in Avondale, Louisiana, site of the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals, the most significant kart race in the world. It's being hosted right here. This is also the home of Prep Recruiting Insider, where you see not only fast cars, the best place to drive them, and you'll also hear about the best high school football players in the country. Hi, I'm Ro Brown. Thank you for joining us here on Prep Recruiting Insider from NOLA Motorsports Park, as we said, hosting the biggest kart race in the world, November 13th to November 16th, right here. Come on out and see it. As usual, my partner is here with me, Renee Nato. Renee, good to have you here again, as always, and a lot of activity here at NOLA Motorsports Park. That's, significant race. All the best drivers in the world, right
This
here.
is a great place to be. I feel like with David Letterman and Arsenio Hall here with this setup. But it's a great place to be, and, recruiting is winding down. I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about, this perception about, I've had so many questions in the last few days, and I'd like to get your take on this, Ro. So many people are worried about high school players based on wins and losses and things like that, and I tell them all the time, fans that we speak with, a recruit is not going to base everything on one game, whether they base it on a program, the teammates, curriculum, things like that. So many fans the last week or two have asked about that, and I'd be curious your take on it.
All right, cut to it. The LSU fans are worried that because Leonard Fournette saw Alabama beat LSU, they're afraid he's going to go to Alabama because of that. Well, also not necessarily the case, is what you're saying.
Well, some Texas fans also with Mac Brown. I've had some Texas fans ask about that.
Yeah,
too.
but this is why we're talking about it now with the LSU. Alabama.
Well, I've had a lot of that, yeah. But I've had some Texas fans, and whether
it doesn't. Doesn't decide. I don't think.
No, it doesn't. And if a player is going to LSU, Alabama, or Texas, or wherever, they're going to go there because they like it's a good fit for them, and things like that, and throw the coach aside.
We got a good show today. Of course, it is Newman Greeny Day, #1 in the state.
Looking forward to it. They have a great opportunity to get to the Dome in mid-December.
Coach Nelson Stewart, of course, will be here with 4 of his kids, 4 of his outstanding student athletes. And it's going to be a really good time here on Prep Recruiting Insider, because we're also going to have Henry Rando and Jay Roth will give us a little, tell us something about football. But this is PRI. We'll be right back after this. 8 years already.
Yeah. No gray hairs yet either, Ro.
I remember you in high school. 8 years now? How things going there? Obviously very good.
You're going very well. Again, this group of juniors and seniors have come up through our program, obviously come through middle school, and we've watched them develop. We've had some solid years, past 2, 5, 6, and 6, but making a run. But I think this has been a process for us, watching these guys grow up and come through our system. We had good expectations going in. We thought we, capable of some great things, but they've lived up to, everything we thought they could accomplish. And really this season, I think, is a credit to our kids and the great staff I have. They put so much time in, and we're very proud of them so far this year.
You were defensive tackle, played with Peyton Manning, played under Tony Reginelli, Frank Jandusa. How did that experience as defensive tackle for the Newman Greenies shape you, Nelson, the way you are now?
Well, I think the first thing for me is the importance of line play. I think that, I was fortunate to be on, 3 or 4 really very good football teams during my career there. And our best teams were, a lot of times it wasn't just skill players, our best line play. And, each year that's where we start. I think that I'm fortunate. Coach Ferris coached me. He's still on our staff, and you got to have great coaches there, but you have to have, I think, guys up front that obviously on both sides, platoon if you can. But I think that that's the thing. You hear so much about Newman, you think about the Mannings, and now with all of our skill players. But I think a lot of times our line goes unnoticed. And I had great mentors with Coach Reginelli and Coach Jandusa that really inspired me, gave me a passion, not just for coaching, but helping kids, because they had such a big effect on me. And that's really how I came into this profession.
Nelson, I think people kind of overlook and forget sometimes about Newman's football program. They think that it perhaps started with the Mannings. Pretty much like people thought that in basketball at Newman, it started and ended with Randy Livingston. But that was, far from the case. You know, Billy Fitzgerald was winning before Randy and after Randy, and I think the same thing holds true for Newman football. There was a before the Mannings and an after the Mannings.
It really was.
And, yeah.
You know, interestingly enough, you know, the Manning family actually gave us a nice donation with the NFL to redo our locker room. We had to go back through. We wanted to make an all-time record board and look at not just individual records but team records. And you know, I always say that I'm just sailing the ship that Tony Reginelli built. People forget he's been to the state semifinals 3 times, over 200 wins. I mean, you talk guys like, you know, Miles Clemens and they cover Reggie Reginelli. I mean, there's so many. Bill Nix have come through our program. We actually made a wall of fame for all the college players that came through, and it's amazing that when you look from as early as Monk Simons all the way through Reggie Reginelli, you forget about all the players that we put out. And, you know, again, there's such a proud tradition there. We embrace that. I think that obviously we're very fortunate. When you think of Newman football, you think of the Manning family for good reason, but I think that that foundation obviously was built, you know, a little before them, but obviously they took us to a pretty amazing heights with all their accomplishments. So we don't shy away from it. We're very proud of it.
Nelson, you're at the top of the heap right now. Playoffs start this week. How do things look for you? And it's kind of tough to project, but how do things look for you as in your bracket and what may be coming down the road?
Well, I think that this year's unique because when you went to the select group, we're used to, you know, 1 through 32. You're only talking about 14 teams, so every week's a challenge. There is no easy road, and if there is an easier bracket per se, it's almost blind luck if that's what you fall into. Our goal, obviously going through, was you know, try and get a district championship, got a share of that, and then get a home playoff game. We accomplished that, and that's all you can ask for at this point. Got a great opponent coming this week, and Opelousas Catholic, very well coached, a lot of numbers, really fundamentally sound. They're gonna give us a heck of a football game. So we really can't look that far. You're talking 7 versus 10. There's all kinds of teams in our bracket. I think ours is the power heavy bracket. You have Calvary Baptist, Catholic New Iberia, North Lake Christian. It's everybody's in the same boat. You take one game at a time. I think if you can focus, show maturity, and continue to grow, that's the key to getting to the Dome. But again, now it's only 4 weeks. It used to be this long 5-week journey. That's not the case anymore. So we're excited to be in the dance, and we'll be playing our best football whatever happens.
You know, some people would say that there are only 14 teams in your division. There's only 10 in another division. Watered down state champion. You feel that way? Should you win it? Would you feel?
Well, I think what makes Newman unique is we've never had a state championship. So I think it's one of those things where it's the toughest sport to win it in. And if we were fortunate to win it, I think for our players and our program, we would obviously celebrate it. Your banner goes with everything else, but in a perfect world, you would want it together, simply because some of my best friends in coaching are from, you know, public schools. I mean, guys all across the state. You know, I talk to Nick Saltz from Maggio every week. You know, Frank Daggs is very close. I've worked the Lake Pontchartrain All-Star game as the head coach there. Kevin Roussel. I have so many close friends where the rift isn't as deep as a lot of people think, and I think if we work hard, we can get it together because, you know, a solid association makes for better football. I think every program deserves an opportunity. I would never say that if a school wins a title, they deserve it, but I do think that it'd be nice to have one trophy in each class. Maybe it's just a one-year deal. I'd like to, you know, hope so in some ways, but we'll prepare just the same either way.
Last couple of minutes, Nelson. You've been through the recruiting process before. You went through it, had Odell Beckham there a couple of years ago, and you had some guys being recruited. Has that process changed, and how do you handle things and keep things in perspective for you and the players?
Well, I think it has changed. It's just because it's happened so much earlier. I think with the internet and all the different recruiting sites, all of a sudden, you know, information's so fast. When I was around, everybody would make their own highlight tape. You'd send it off. You remember getting those big envelopes when I first took over. Now it's as easy as a click of a button. And I think you have to grow as the recruiting process grows. I think it's very important to keep your highlight films up to date on Huddle, make sure that everybody has access to it. We're very fortunate at Newman that the majority of you know, Division I schools, whatnot, BCS schools that recruit the area do come through our schools. So I just think you have to, you know, be proactive in terms of you know, marketing your athletes as they come through, being honest with recruiters, and I do think we're very blessed right now that we do have some Division I athletes. You know, this year our senior Justin Harrell has, you know, 3 very solid offers. I do think more are going to come his way. You know, he's such a tremendous student athlete. He's a 3-0 student, but he's also a great high jumper, great leader. He's a 3-sport captain for us. Those are the high character guys we have, and right around the corner, You have Jabari Tyler and you have Kendall Bussey, both very solid Division I athletes. Again, I talk about their GPAs because I'm so impressed. They're smarter than me. Jabari, Jay has a 4.0,
Yeah.
Kendall has a 3.5, and I'd like to think they're good enough to where they should be able to go where they want to. I think that when you look at both of them and their skill sets, that they're going to make somebody very happy. But again, all three will have choices. All three are great student athletes, and I think that they'll be not just great players, but great leaders for their program.
Now, you mentioned you were a Newman student athlete. A couple of things I want you to address for me. One, your coaching staff, and the fact that you are now the head coach of the boss of some of your coaches.
Well,
you were there.
Yeah, it is a unique experience. Some of my, teammates come by and say, "What's that like?" And I think that, a piece of advice my father gave me when I took over is just remember you work with people, they don't work for you. And I think that's the thing for me is that while I'm the head coach, our assistants make it go. Ken Lass is, I believe, in his 20th year. He was our linebacker coach, defensive coordinator. Good old Bradley Ferris, and I say his 35th year. I'm probably wrong. It's probably 36. But and then again, Jason Matthews, Will Walter, Joe Geeson, some of our younger coaches that have come back. They're the lifeblood of our program, and I think the best thing is working together to make the best staff that you can.
Coach Nelson Stewart, head coach of the Newman Greenies, getting ready for the playoffs, going into the first round of everything. Coach, thanks for joining us here on Prep Recruiting Insider. When we come back, we'll return with a couple of Coach Stewart's prized recruits. Welcome back to Prep Recruiting Insider from NOLA Motorsports Park in Avondale, Louisiana. It is a Newman Greening Day here on PRI. My comrade in crime here, Renee Nato. You want to introduce our next guest?
To my left, Kendall Buss Jr. To his left, Jay Tyler, Herb Tyler's son. So two guys who are part of the big offensive outburst of the Newman Greenies.
Okay, now, you mentioned, Herb Tyler's son, but this is also
Kendall
Bussey's
Buss's son.
So
Yes.
I want to get, that's the first thing I want to
maybe
deal with.
talking,
This second generation football, I'm into covering third generations now, but I mean, it's just kind of interesting. I got two second generation people here. Talk to me about that, guys, and I'm asking you about your fathers and, hearing about your fathers and your fathers, the effects and impacts they've had on your lives in and out of football. Kendall. First.
I mean, it's great to have a dad like my dad because he was a big-time legend around here, and it's great just having him to help me. He showed me what I can do better and what I can work on, and that's really been key to me becoming the player I am. And he's just a great role model.
And he is the son of Kendall Bussey, who went to Archbishop Shaw, was an outstanding player there, University of Colorado and Northeast Louisiana at the time, now Louisiana Monroe, and some other people may know him from commercials, but I won't talk about that a little bit later. And you, Jay, and Herb Tyler, the son of Herb Tyler, who of course, Perry Walker, and an outstanding career at LSU. Talk about, your dad and his impact.
Yeah, well, you're always going to be associated with your father, when he's that high profile of a player and of a legend around here in New Orleans. But it's fun to have a father like that who's been through it all and can teach you things that you maybe have to go through on your own when you don't have that type of support system. But yeah, it's fun.
Okay, I'm finished. I just wanted to get that out of the way. You can have him now.
We talked a little bit about the recruiting process, and it starts early. I know guys get commitments or get offers at 8th grade. So far, Kendall, you've been offered and you've committed to Tulane. Is the process over with? Are you still visiting? And what was the process like for you as it is right now?
I mean, I was grateful to be offered, seeing as how I didn't play last year because of a knee injury. But no, I don't think it's over. I'm still planning to take visits, and I'm still have the doors open as of right now. But Tulane is a great school. I love the education. It's close to home, so my family can see me play. So as of right now, I am committed to Tulane.
What other visits might you take?
Last weekend, I did attend the LSU-Bama game in Alabama. And I plan on taking a few other visits. I haven't really decided where yet, but I plan to take a few more.
And Jay, you're also a junior. You have some options, and you also play baseball. You like baseball, so it may be a two-sport deal. Where are you looking, and what schools have contacted you?
Well, I got some heavy interest from schools like Utah, Alabama, Louisville, Missouri, but it all depends on what's the best option for me. There's a school up north called Dartmouth that's very interested in.
I've heard of that. Yeah, that's
it could be a pretty good option for me. So it all depends on what's the best options.
Now, the fact that he's running around talking about Dartmouth tells you that these guys know what they're doing in the classroom as well.
Yeah, 4.0 and 3.5. Am I correct, guys? I mean, that's grades. They take their grades very serious.
No doubt about it. Playing together, kind of talk about that, kind of knowing each other and knowing what you're going to do, when, how you're going to react to certain situations in the game.
I mean, I've played with him since we were, what, 9, 10? We've been playing together since we were little kids, so I guess the familiarity is it's there, and it's been there for a pretty long time. So that chemistry we have, it's just so much easier when you've played with somebody for years and years and years.
How important, Kendall, is what he's talking about, an example of it?
I mean, just playing with him for so long, it's easy to talk to him and easy to show him what I see, and he tell me what I need to work on, and I mean, we just have a bond, and it's just really easy to play with him.
Now he's in a process. Kendall has a chance to break the school record for touchdowns, and Jay has said broken a lot of the Manning records in passing and things. When you hear that, I know you're playing in the game and stuff, but how much pressure does that put on you, realizing that you're breaking records of guys that have been pretty serious football players?
Well, first of all, the record he's going after is my record from last year, just so everybody knows. Oh,
wow.
I'm really not rooting for him.
Set us straight. Set us straight, Jay. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But no, it's just humbling, I guess, if you want to say, to be mentioned in the same sentence with a person like Peyton Manning or Eli Manning or Ronnie Vincent, something like that. It's just very humbling.
Kendall, you with the touchdown, the Odell Beckhams and the guys that preceded you.
I mean, I don't think it's much of a problem at all. I mean, you just play. You just go out to play, and whatever happens, happens. Coach trusts me with the ball, and I just try to make plays.
Did the 7-on-7, so much is made about the 7-on-7 camps. How much does that help you, Jay, first of all? Is it a good thing, and how much do you get out of those summer camps?
I would say it's a good thing. It's not really, I guess, realistic, if you want to call it, because there's no line, there's no pressure or anything like that. But it does help with timing, and it does help with chemistry on certain levels. Being on the football field. It's not, I guess, the best option. I mean, I guess you would want to have some linemen out there, giving you some pressure whenever we are throwing in the summer. But still, it's not a bad thing. It's a pretty good thing.
Kendall, as a back, how does that help you?
I mean, just help me work on my routes. I mean, running backs don't have too many routes they can run out of the backfield. But Coach has been putting a lot to give me the ball in open field, and being able to do that during the summer has really helped me to just make my moves precise and just help me work on everything I need to work on.
Now, he's an MVP in track, Rose, so he's got some burners.
That's right. Talk to me about this year's team overall in this season. It's obviously been a good one for you, but just, give me an overview. Surprised that it's gone this well, or compare it to last year, because you've been pretty good for a while now.
Yeah, the last 2 years we've gone 500 every year. I think 6-6 and 5-5 last year. So we just took that leap this year, and I think it all has to do with our defense. Our defense improved greatly from last year. We gave up so many yards, so many points last year, but this year our defense is really hunkered down and giving us a chance to win every single football game that we played this year. And I think that's the biggest difference.
Kendall, what about this season?
I definitely agree with that. Our defense has really come together. They've stepped up, and I really applaud our line coach, Jason Matthews. He's really taught them how to play well and be strong. And we need that. That's been our trouble in the past years. And really, Coach Stew's been working with our offense, getting us really speedy and really quick to the ball. We run a high-tempo offense. And that's really helped us. It catches a lot of teams off guard, and it's really put us in great positions.
Well, Kendall Bussey and Jay Tyler, both juniors, 11th graders, committed to Tulane already, and both taking visits to outstanding student athletes here in the greater New Orleans area, and two guys who are highly, highly recruited. Newman Greenies going to the playoffs. This is Prep Recruiting Insider from NOLA Motorsports Park in Avondale, Louisiana, and we'll be right back with more right after this. Hey, thanks for joining us on Prep Recruiting Insider from NOLA Motorsports Park, site of the 2013 Rotax Max Grand Challenge Finals. the biggest kart race in the world, right here at NOLA Motorsports Park in Avondale, Louisiana, November 13th to 16th. It is Newman Greenie Day here on PRI, Renee Nadeau, and we've got a couple more Newman Greenies. We've got the old people this time, some seniors, some captains from this team. That's Charles Sylvia right there to your left, if you're looking at the screen, and Justin Harrell to his left. Guys, the seniors, good to have you here.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So what you think about those younger guys who are before you, you know, the little puppies, your little puppy teammates, you know, you guys are going to outdo them, right? That's what we're going to have here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Justin plays, and both these guys play offense and defense. Justin has 15 career interceptions, which is outstanding. Justin, start with you. You're kind of going through the process right, recruiting. Who is talking to you? I think Vanderbilt, Utah, some of the other schools. Where are you visiting? Where are you planning on visiting?
Well, so far I have offers from ULM, Utah, and Southeastern, and I've been talking to Vanderbilt and Dartmouth a little bit.
And what side of the ball would you like to play on? You're a free safety and a wide receiver.
Most likely offense.
And Charles, you tell us who your uncle is. I know everybody's got a skeleton in the closets, but Charles, tell us who your uncle
that's
is.
a skeleton.
Well, my uncle by marriage is Cooper Manning, and so that makes Hayden and Eli kind of my further uncles. Not really my uncles, but kind of. I know them all. They're good to me, and they teach me some stuff, and they're great.
Charlie, we won't hold it against you. That Cooper is your uncle by marriage. We won't hold it against you. No, love Cooper. He's a terrific guy. You know, two-way performance. You see that a lot at your level and your classification of football. Of course, you are a defensive end and offensive guard,
Yes,
correct?
Yes,
you know, talk about playing both of those positions, playing both ways. You know, that's what football players used to do a long time ago all the time.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely work in the trenches, and it's tough sometimes. You know, my body's aching all the time, but it's definitely rewarding when we get that win and we all play well.
Justin?
Yeah, just playing in 2A, we know that we don't have as many players as bigger classes, but I mean, it's great playing on both sides of the ball. I love it.
Now, Justin is also, you can kick the ball. You had a 40-yard field goal to your credit, can't you? So you got a little bit of a toe with you. Captain of the track, basketball, and football teams.
Yes,
is
sir.
there a sport you prefer?
I love them all. I like all my teammates. I just like competing. So.
And Charles, something that's outstanding, we've noticed through Newman, you guys take your grades very, very seriously,
Yes,
and
yes,
that's
we
something
do.
that's
Yes,
important.
sir.
And what are your plans beyond Newman?
I'm gonna attend Ole Miss next year as a student, but I mean,
Go figure.
I like the way they say, as a student. I like the way the kids say that, you know. I mean, I know what you mean. You mean you're not going to play football. I'm going to attend as a student. Yeah, I would think you would, Charlie. But, captains, how important is that to you? And I don't know how you become captain if the coach picks his captains or teammates do, but, you know, there's something special about having that C behind your name, that C-A-P-T. How important is that? First you, Charlie.
Well, we were actually voted by our teammates to be captain, and it's been probably one of the best honors of my life. I love it. I would go to practice every day, loving being a captain. I mean, it's honestly the best thing in the world.
Justin?
Yeah, like you said, we were selected by our teammates, and we really embrace this role as being a captain. We have a captain's class that we have to go to every week, just touch up on some leadership skills and tactics to make us better captains.
Well, a lot of your leadership is on the field, because it seems like whenever you hear about highlights from Newman football games, it seems like every week you see a touchdown by Harrell. So, as Renee mentioned, you know, you cross the goal line a whole lot. Big play guy you are, and let's talk about how important those big plays are, Justin.
They're really important. I mean, I have to give some of the credit, if not most of it, to my teammates, good blockers. I have a great quarterback. Fortunate enough to have a good coach and everything, so that works out well.
Charles, let me ask you, why is this team playing so well, and as you enter the playoffs, why is this a better team now than they were maybe you guys were 6 weeks ago?
Well, I mean, I think our defense is just playing the best it has all year right now at the most perfect time. And we've been shutting teams out. We've been playing our best. We're tackling well. Guys are getting interceptions. D-line is playing well. I mean, it's been a great year of defensive games for us so far.
What's it like playing for Coach Stewart?
I mean, he's
Because and the reason why I ask is because he's still young, as far as I'm concerned. But so he's kind of close to you guys. What's it like playing for him?
I mean, I like that better because it's not like an old guy just yelling at you the whole time. It's someone who can actually relate to us and kind of knows what we're dealing with. And he's been around it all, so he knows what it's like.
Justin?
Yeah, I love it. He's not as young as you think. He tries.
You'll appreciate that.
He tries to keep up with all the current dancers.
Oh, is that right? Now, you see, I wish you would have known that earlier in the show. We would have asked him to demonstrate some of these steps that you guys have been teaching him, right?
I have a feeling somebody's going to be running laps when this is over. I don't know. Why do I just think that?
Yeah, but I love him. He works harder than any other coach I've ever had. So.
I got to ask you two guys. Last year, you guys were part of a game that was, the Carver game last year. With all with all the points scored, whatever number of points it was. Talk about that game. And do people still talk to you about that?
I mean, people like to bring it up as, how did you do it? How did you play both ways? How did you? I mean, it was tiring. I remember the left tackle throwing up in a trash can when it was like the first start of the fourth quarter, and I was like, come on, we have another quarter, we can actually win this game. And it was an amazing experience, but I'd rather win by a lot than win by 4 like that.
Justin, how about your experience in that Carver game last year?
It's a great game to look back on. You can just see how far our defense has come as a team. We don't let up nearly as many points as we did last year against Carver, but I mean, it was a good experience. So.
Well, a couple of Newman Greenies, Charles Sylvia, offensive lineman and a defensive end, and Justin Harrell, another two-way performer, both team captains of the Newman Greenies, the 2013 Newman Greenie football team, which is in the playoffs, trying to make its way to a trip to the Dome, and they have a very good chance of getting there. Guys, thanks for joining us here on Prep Recruiting Insider, and good luck to you the rest of the way.
Appreciate that.
This is PRI from NOLA Motorsports Park in Avondale, Louisiana, and we'll be right back with more right after these messages. We are at NOLA Motorsports Park in Avondale, Louisiana. Yep, this is the site of the biggest kart race in the world. And this is Prep Recruiting Insider. And Renee Nato is here with us, and this is our X's and O's segment. We go with the R&R boys, as I call them, Roth and Rando. And what's on their mind this week, Renee?
There's so much that's going on with the explosion of offense. And NFL years ago started going with the spread and wide open attack and Air Coryell and things like that. It came down, filtered down to colleges, and it's going even further. Now it comes to the high school level. Excuse me, may not have an Air Coryell attack, but the wide open spread, no huddle, has made its way to high school football. And Coach Roth and Rando are going to explain how it works.
Coach, one of the crazes you hear right now in football is no huddle, up-tempo offense. All the magazines I read talk about up-tempo offense. There are a lot of teams in high school football now that are trying to mimic what goes on at the upper levels, and we see it quite a lot too. Defensively, Coach is a defensive coordinator. What problems does that present you, a no huddle, up-tempo?
Well, one of the things I hate to see when a team does not huddle and they're at the line of scrimmage, it really prevents me because we're so down in distance and hash mark orientated from a defensive standpoint. It really limits the defense a chance to get the proper personnel on the field. So I can't substitute. I've got to go with the 11 guys on 1st and 10, regardless what you're coming out, and I got to hope my guys can cover every situation, all right? Without putting in maybe wanting to take out a linebacker, putting in a different defensive back, taking out a lineman, which we normally did a lot of times, and actually inserted another back to go to 5 guys in the secondary instead of 4. It presents a lot of problems from a defensive standpoint as far as substitution is concerned.
Correct, and I think also from an offensive standpoint, it allows the offense to let the defense show their hand. and call the right play. It makes the defense get set and line up. And now the offense can, if they're checking with me on the line of scrimmage, you know, the defense can't be changing because they don't know when the ball's going to be snapped, and it allows the offense to really see what the defense is going to line up in.
You know, Nick Saban at the University of Alabama, I've heard it said more than once that he hates that. Hates having to deal with that, you know, because as Coach Rando said, you can't make your substitutions.
Well, and that makes sense. But you also have to have the personnel to run that wide open attack. And it's a little bit pressure on the offense. It puts a little pressure on the defense because they can't make adjustments. But also, too, sometimes you can also run that no huddle when it's close to your side on your hash mark because the defense can't make adjustments and you can do things real quickly. So you want to do things. It's all about timing and field position that play into it.
Thank you to coaches Rando and Roth for our X's and O's segment. This is PRI, Prep Recruiting Insider from NOLA Motorsports Park. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Prep Recruiting Insider. It is now time for our Legends of the Game segment. Ronnie Lamarque, Legends of the Game. Lamarque Ford sponsors this segment. Renee Nato is here with us. And our legend, you know, has the same name. You may have heard this name before on this show. Kendall Bussey. But we had the mini bus before. We got the original bus now. He was an outstanding player at Archbishop Shaw High School in the late 80s, early 90s. Those outstanding teams that Hank Tierney had there. He was a main cog in those teams. And as I said, his nickname was the Bus. And his nickname is still the Bus. Kendall, good to have you here, man.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
You still look like you can play.
Oh, no, it looks deceive
Oh,
no,
you still look like you can play, man.
No, I work out a little bit, but those days are far and beyond.
Oh, good to see you, man.
Oh, great to be here, guys.
First, I got to ask you, I asked him about you. What about little Kendall?
You know, he's a terrific kid. You know, we're best of friends. And I'm so happy to see the success he's having this year, because last year he had an injury and he missed the whole year, and it was so hard. Watched him on the field. You know, he said, "Daddy, I never thought I would miss football as much as I do." He said, "I'll never take it for granted. Every time I get on the field, I'm gonna just give it my all." And I was just so proud of seeing, him having a great year because he worked so hard getting himself back from this injury to put himself in a position to help his team win some ball games.
Now, your styles, Kendall, were a little different one day.
Oh, definitely. I was more of a power back. I was 225 pounds. You know, Kendall's 195 pounds, and he's more of a slasher, but runs with a lot of power. He's very strong. He works out very hard. But he has a lot more tools, I think, than I had coming up. You know, he's a 4'3" kid. I was a 4'5", 4'6" kid. So I'm very proud.
How was the recruiting process for you? Coming out of Shaw, you had, 10 or 11 guys who signed. Talk about some of the guys that came out with you, and what was the recruiting process? Where were you looking before you decided on Colorado?
You know, it was so confusing when we came out of high school. Myself and Patrick Riley, who was All-American with me, our senior year, we were getting recruited heavily by LSU, and we thought we were all going to be Tigers together. And it was the year of Mike Archer's last year, so you got this group of coaches recruiting you all year, and then LSU fires Mike Archer and hires Curly Hallman. So it kind of made a total turn on everything we were looking at, because now, you know, we kind of put our heart in going to LSU, and all of a sudden here comes Curly Hallman, we don't know, and people from the staff at LSU, Pete Jenkins, who recruited this area at that time, goes to Mississippi State. So now he's pitching on how wonderful Mississippi State is. So as a 16, 17-year-old kid, you're very, very confused. You don't know what's going on. And my good friend Vance Joseph signed with Colorado the year before, and me and Cordell Stewart at the time we played John Eric were good friends, and Vance told us how wonderful it is. So we took a trip to Colorado, and collectively, both of us together, chose to go to the University of Colorado. So
Isn't it interesting how schools go in cycles, and meaning coming here to New Orleans and getting players out of New Orleans, to go to the schools. At one point it was Nebraska. We're getting a lot of people. At that particular time when you guys were around, it seemed Colorado owned, especially the West Bank, but they got a lot of players out of here. Bob Simmons was recruiting, and I guess when one goes and they find out that it's pretty good, then others follow.
absolutely. At the time, Colorado was a beautiful place in the Rocky Mountains, coming from down south where you didn't see those kind of things. And you're absolutely right. When you see a team on top, talent follows what's going on. And at that time, it was the Buffaloes, and now it's LSU. And, I think if you're a great athlete and you're able to play for the hometown, especially if you're going to come back and live here in the city or in Louisiana, you might as well go ahead and play for the local school that's doing good.
Coach McCartney was a kind of a special guy, wasn't he?
Yes, very religious guy, very disciplined guy, very unique individual that recruited intensively here in the city. So I had a great experience up there, my little time that I was there.
What do you remember most about your time playing at Archbishop Shaw?
Well, Coach Hank Turney, I could tear up talking about him because he's such a wonderful man. He's a second father to me, and the bond he had and the love he had for, number one, you as a student athlete first, football player second, was second to none. I mean, he was there, over and beyond the time I was there. He made sure our grades were intact. He made sure we did what we had to do. And he taught us so much more outside of football. He taught us about life. He taught us about being disciplined, the things it's going to take for you to make it in the workplace outside of when football is over with. And I owe a whole bunch, in my position I'm in today as Vice President of the Rayburn Auto Group. Certain things I've learned from him at an early age, I give it to my workers here, because they work hard as well, and he's just taught me so much. I owe a lot to that man.
Kendall, last minute, every year, New Orleans area turns out so many NFL players. This year, they had over 40 players from the New Orleans area on NFL rosters. Why is this such a fertile area for NFL players?
Well, I say you guys, the experience that you give, and right when I came up, you didn't have Friday night football and certain things, but the exposure that you get playing here, and I take my hat off to the John Curtises. I think they just have you so prepared for the next level. Coach Hank Turney, you have so many great coaches here in Louisiana that really gets kids prepared for the next level. And when we get to the college level, we succeed.
It's a recruiting show, so give me some advice. I'm about 15 years old and I'm a really good athlete. What should I do? What should I be doing now? What should I do later?
First thing is keep God first in your life. That's first and foremost. The second thing is take care of school. Understand that at any given time, your career could be over. So make sure you have a plan outside of football. Now, when it comes to sports, just work hard. Listen to your coaches. Be disciplined. And, work ethic is the only thing that you can't change. If you work hard at anything you do, you're going to be successful. So.
Well, he was called the Buss, and he's still called the Buss. He was a terrific football player at Archbishop Shaw and on the collegiate level at the University of Colorado. Now he's having, I guess, the time of his life watching his son, Kendall Jr., play for the Newman Greenies. He is our legend of the game this week on Prep Recruiting Insider. Kendall Bussey, thank you for joining us here on PRI. And we'll be right back with more after this. Welcome back to Prep Recruiting Insider from our home, NOLA Motorsports Park in Avondale, Louisiana. As we mentioned, of course, the most significant kart race in the world is going on out here right now, November 13th to 16th. All the greatest kart drivers and everything are right here. It's the place to see them. It's the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals. And Renee Nato, I am happy to say that we have some guys who know all about this stuff because I don't know anything about it. You guys are the experts. Starting from left right there, we've got Jesse James Mitchell. Raise your hand there, Jesse, so people know who you are. You are from Huntsville, Louisiana, correct?
Yep.
And you are how old?
8.
8 years old, okay. And to his right, we have got Jeremy Kroll, who is from Baton Rouge. You are 12 years old. Both guys are members of Team USA. Jesse, a Micro Max driver, and Jeremy is a Mini Max driver. And to his left is the defending senior Rotax champion, who is an 18-year-old from Ireland, Charlie Eastwood. Guys, thanks for joining us here on Prep Recruiting Insider. Okay, I'll start with the old person at 18 first, okay? You remember when you were at that stage, these two guys?
Yeah, I started at 8 years of age and I've been racing ever since. So they're just at the start of the ladder the whole way up to IndyCar, Formula One.
Charlie, the senior defending champion, Rotax, you know, the best in the world at this. How does it feel to be the best in the world at something? Because I'll never know.
Yeah, with any sport, just getting to the top of your game is just amazing. And last year was the first time I competed in the World Championships, and then we came away. We had no real expectations of how we were going to do, and we came home with the win. And this year's a lot different. There's a lot more pressure, but hopefully we're going to be able to do the same again.
Now, Jesse and Jeremy, as we said, Team USA, 22 drivers on Team USA, and 2 of them from right here in Louisiana. This gentleman from Huntsville, this gentleman from Baton Rouge. Guys, when did you start this? You know, it's hard, it's kind of strange asking somebody at 8 and 12 when they started doing something, but, you know, when did you start kart driving? What about you, Jesse?
I started when I was 6 years old, and I was in junior 1, and we just couldn't go fast and stuff, so we bought his cart. He kept on winning, so we thought if he was winning, so if I get his cart, I would win. So we bought his cart, and I won the whole year, and I just won the whole thing.
You just won, huh?
Yeah, I just won the whole thing.
What about you, Jeremy? You know, how did you get started? It's obvious you two guys know each other pretty well.
Yes. I've been racing 2 years. We had just ended my 2nd year. I started racing when I was about 10, and I had my cart, which he bought. Mm-hmm. And then I moved up to the next class called Mini Max, which was a lot faster than Junior 1.
You know, buying cars, you know, back and forth. I mean, you guys are serious, right? That's pretty good. You're like big money people, you know, like the big drivers and everything. Charlie, this complex, NOLA Motorsports Park, you've been around the block, you know. How does this one rank? What do you see here?
Yeah, this is above and beyond most other car circuits. That's the thing with Rotax. Every year they just keep progressing further and further, and this is the first time that the Grand Finals have came to America, and as the Americans always do, they put on a show. So yeah, it's just amazing.
Okay, 30 seconds. I'm going to put you on the spot. Give these two guys some, give them something, to get them going. If we reach the spot where you are now, Charlie.
Yeah,
give them some advice.
When I was their age, I was only really racing in Ireland, and it was only till 4 or 5 years ago that I started going further afield. So for them to be at this high level at such a young age, they just need to keep working hard, and they'll get to the top eventually. All
right, Jesse James Mitchell, Jeremy Kroll, Charlie Eastwood. It's the Rotax Max Grand Challenge Finals here at NOLA Motorsports Park in Avondale, Louisiana. This has been Prep Recruiting Insider, and we'll see you next time.